Hi, well, next we have Andrés Mendoza, Technical Director of Southern Europe and LATAM at ManageEngine. He's going to talk to us about simplifying the adoption of zero trust-based cybersecurity. So, Andrés. And you've got the clicker. Who's...
Hello, good afternoon. I know it was a long day. This is the second day, and probably a lot of concepts, a lot of cybersecurity strategies, ideas, artificial intelligence, a lot of topics to listen. What we will do today is we will try to analyze what is the name Zero Trust, or the box, black box, has said in the previous talk, and how we can start to have some ideas and initiatives inside of the organizations. Some companies already have a proper strategy and they are doing some activities. Other probably they are on the middle of the process, but it's like, okay, what is the path I need to continue? What is the path I need to follow? There is one single solution, or there is one single vendor that I need to go there and ask, hey, do you have a zero trust solution? Could you help me? Can I download the solution I can install, and after that I will sit and take a coffee and everything is taken care? Or there are different challenges in the middle. So that is what we will try to bring here, and we will try to share some best practices, some ideas. It's not a final solution, definitely, but there are some ideas that we can understand. In the day-to-day activities in the organization, definitely there are a lot of type of attacks and problems, challenges. This is one updated information I obtained for the initial of this year that is collecting several information about the different cyber attacks or data leaks, and they are mentioning the number of records that were exposed in different areas. We have different type of companies exposure data. There are social media websites, for example. We have there Facebook, Meta, but also we have companies, but we start to say some government entities. We have hospitals, we have records from army, we have records from police. It's not only private companies. Everybody is under attack today. And a lot of people say today in different conferences, I say there are two types of companies. The companies that already suffer an attack, and the companies that probably they don't know that I already suffered an attack. That is the truth. Everybody needs to be prepared to reduce the impact and start to reinforce the cybersecurity strategy, reinforce the solutions they have, but also they need to take care about the awareness with the employees. I always mention that we have 4 P's that are very important that's coming from in Spanish. We have people. We need to talk with the people, we need to train the people, we need to aware, and also we need to understand what is our business, what type of information we are managing in the day-to-day, what kind of risk we have, and then we can do a mapping with the day-to-day activities the users are doing. So people is 25% of the responsibility. Another 25% is about the product, the solution we are using. Could be a CM, could be a PIM or PAM solution, could be a solution to take care of multi-factor authentication, different solutions. Solutions are only the vehicle to reach some place. It's only 25%. And then we have another 25% that are the vendors, providers, as we say, that sometimes it's like they are sharing the knowledge, they are sharing the know-how, how to do, how to implement the process. Sometimes they are taking care of the process, like outsourcing of the processes. That is why they have another 25%. But the last 25% is processes. We need also to update our internal processes based on the business. A lot of people say after COVID, our COVID situation, COVID-19, a lot of process changing. Today we have people probably seated around the world working for our company, the hybrid model or the full working for home model. We need to adopt our cybersecurity solutions in order to enable these kind of things. If we are still using processes outdated, that are using the past 5 years, 10 years or more, definitely will be a failure in one part in the process, could be a failure if I don't have the tool, could be a failure if I never did the best practices to train our employees. One of the cybersecurity frameworks suggested to do an awareness training session internally each 3 months. There is a company here that is doing each 3 months internal training for employees. Could raise the hands? 1, perfect, nice. 2, 6 months, at least 2 times in a year. There. Once in a year. Okay. And more than 1 year. Definitely there are some people that they don't want to raise the hand. Or probably doesn't exist the training. Probably you only receive the training in the onboarding session. Okay, a new employee comes to the office and we have a checklist. It's okay, this is your laptop, this is your mobile device, this is the access, and this is the training session because HR have a checklist. Okay, 1 hour training about cybersecurity, completed. After that, more than 10 years working in the same company, any new updated training related to cyber attacks, cybersecurity, risk, data that we are managing is a confidential data, is a personal data, what we are doing, how we are using. And that is another very important point that we have on the place. It's about like internal users. Because we have the people that are already working with us, but probably there are a lot of privileges that were assigned previously for any particular reason. I need to install a software. Please give me a local admin of this computer. After that, nobody removed that privilege. And they are still with domain admin, local admin, or other extra privilege, and they start to do abusing of that privilege, doing things that they are supposedly not need to be there on that system, accessing to that particular data, or accessing to confidential data inside of the organization. That is why today we say that we have insiders, employees internally that probably they are using their privileges to exposure some data outside. Or there are some cases that we have an employee that probably goes to the manager, do you know, I am doing more than 50%, 80%, or I double the activities I am doing in the past 1 year. I request one hike salary because I'm doing the double. I said, no, the company is facing some issues. You will not receive any hike. You will maintain with the same salary. It's okay, I'm not happy. I will go out and search a new opportunity. But before I leave this company, I will delete all of the infrastructure in Amazon Web Services or in Microsoft Azure. Because I have the access. I am not happy with this company. I can do whatever I want because I am domain admin. How we can prevent this kind of things, the insider things, that is also we need to take care. So that is why we say, we have common different attacks, like phishing attacks, malware attacks, ransomware attacks. We have the most common that are still very active. Today we can say for these names that I'm putting there are 3 main attacks that is happening. First one is like a denial of service, distributed denial of service, because we want to affect one company. There is another one that is the famous phishing that can be in different areas, phishing for banking, phishing for, previously the talk they were saying we need to identify the brand impersonation. Somebody is taking our brand and is trying to be a fake website in order to capture. That is more like a phishing in different type of ways. And the third one is ransomware. That is the number 1, actually, because everybody wants to have a malware inside of the company, encrypt the files, and ask it for a reward, ask it for money. Ask it for money in order to release the encrypted data. So that are the different things that are happening. But definitely, we want to highlight here about the privileges. And has a user, an admin, or a basic user have more privilege that they need, definitely will be more higher risk inside of our company. We have different type of problems that we listed here, but a part of that also is like the admin or the IT admin or the cybersecurity admin are thinking, we need to define a strategy. We need to create a proper program. We need to define what we can do in order to protect our data, in order to protect our infrastructure, and also reinforce what we are doing today. But if they are not covering all of the areas, all of the things, definitely we'll have some as we say, a vulnerability, we will have a 0-day, we will have a backdoor. We can use different names to these things because probably they are not considering the basic things like a local admin or not supervising or monitoring what the users are doing internally. I always say that majority of the companies are thinking in the perimeter access. I want to create a Chinese muralla and say, okay, I want to put a firewall, I want to put an EDS, IPS, I want to protect everything. Nobody from outside will enter to my company. That is fine. But what we are doing internally, we are auditing our users, we are auditing our database admins, our switching or router administrator, network administrator, what they are doing. Doesn't matter if they are domain admins, also we need to audit because regularly the people on TI thinks that the end user have the problem because they don't know technology or they don't know cybersecurity. And always we are blaming the end user. Oh, because the user received an email that said, please don't open, and the user did 2 clicks and opened the file. And that was a malware that entered to the company. Sometimes happens, yes, but also we need to understand the IT people also needs to have auditing, monitoring, compliance, security, how you are using your privilege. Is correct that because you are domain admin, you access to the HR private folder in the file server, for example? Say, no, you are not part of HR. You are not part of finance. Why do you have this type of access to this confidential information? The solution, we will try to summarize 2 topics that I think is very important in order to adopt the cybersecurity and also zero trust strategy. The first one is the principle of minimum or least privilege. We need to reduce all of the privilege and only assign what is needed. And in the second time, it's about the access. How we can secure the access, implemented some best practices for the zero trust. The first one is something that a term is already on the market for several years, is access just in time, just when it's needed. There are some, by default, for example, in Active Directory, JIT is already available just in time. You say, okay, you can assign. Assign is a very easily process, I will say it in different ways. But removing the privilege after the person, after the admin already completed the task, that is more complicated because sometimes it's a manual job. And if nobody informed me that I already completed the task, because imagine I am the server administrator. Tomorrow I need to log into one critical server because the certificate will expire. I need to update the certificate, I need to change. I asked for privilege, this is just in time, at that moment. Could you please give me tomorrow the privilege? And the admin says, okay, I give you domain admin just for tomorrow. Let me know when you finish and I will remove the privilege. But that let me know never happened. Probably because the admin forget to do, or even I say, okay, I tell you by phone, but I forget, has the technician that need to remove the privilege, I forget to do because no was a proper email request or a proper incident request, or I don't have a tool to track in all of these requests. There are a lot of justifications, but that is one of the problems that is happening. So what we need to do in order to reinforce, that is part of the best practices we are sharing here, is first, has the IT or cybersecurity department, what we need to do is to identify what we have. The simple word, inventory. What we have in terms of servers, in terms of the complete infrastructure, the users, who are the privileged users. We need to have an inventory for everything. Not only for the devices, because when the people say inventory, they are thinking we are having about hardware and software inventories. And no, we need to have the inventory of the privileged account we are using. How many database admins we have? How many database we have in the company? We have confidential information, where it's located, in which file server. Is on-prem, is on cloud, which server, this information is replicated in 2 different providers, for example. We need to understand. Has the names are listed there. Say we need to have users, we need to have the devices, we need to have the networks, we need to have the applications and data. These 5 categories we need to have very clear. After we have the inventory and we have the complete understanding what we have, just at that moment we will go to the next stage. Classify the type of confidentiality. Everything is in the same category. Nothing is confidential, or we have confidential for HR data, finance data, or we are a bank and we are managing, for example, confidential information for credit cards. We are a credit card issue company. Are we aligned to PCI? Probably yes. That's meaning I need to classify that confidential information that cannot be accessed for particular people. But not only because we are a bank, we will do in that. This kind of activity, like a classifying information, everyone needs to do. Everyone needs to understand. After we have the first two steps that are understanding what we have in place, we can go to the next stage. And one of the words that appears in zero trust strategies is define the posture. How we will act when we will receive an access, we will receive a request. Based on what? Based in if it's access into a confidential information because the risk is high, or if it's an access into a normal information, or also based on, as said in the last point, in the part of security. And it's based if the user is working inside of the network in the LAN or WAN environment through VPN, through MPLS, or whatever other type of communication inside of the company, or we have a user that is accessing from a Starbucks coffee in an open network and is using a personal device, for example, and he wants to access to the finance or critical information. We need to define the path that the user needs to follow based on this type of conditions. That is what I say, these 5 areas, the user, the network through who is accessing, and also the data that he wants to access, each of these areas will define the path that he needs to follow. That is the base concept of zero trust. If you understand completely this classification and these steps, you need to, after that, you start to using the tools. The tools will enable you, as I said, is only the vehicle that could help you to configure something, because the last point is only start to securing, start to do the hardening, start to reinforcing. But what you will enforce? The previous 3 steps that you already created. That is why we said in order to have some steps to implement the minimum privilege, first, you need to have the auditing, the inventory. What do you have? How many accounts? Where the access? This data is stored in this place that as we already mentioned it. And then we say, okay, this user needs to have the access, but the access is permanent or the access is based on the need, that is the just in time, as we said, or probably they need to have the access, but we need to implement a workflow. Another admin, another set of people, or a group of people needs to approve. But that also we need to take in consideration. Imagine if our company is operating only Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we said, okay, all of the requests always needs to be approved by a person. That's meaning all my employees are working Monday to Friday, 9 to 6. But for any particular reason, on a Saturday, we have a maintenance window that is happening at 2 a.m. in the morning. That is the only time that we can apply some specific configuration for a firewall. And somebody raised the request, Saturday at 2 a.m. Where is the approval? The approval will wake up at 2 a.m. in order to say, click, it's approved. That type of considerations we need to understand very well, how our business are operating. If the administrators will not be available on Saturday at 2 a.m., we need to create an emergency workflow. Say, okay, for these particular cases, when it's happening, we will follow a different workflow. Could be like an emergency change, for example. The best practices on IT service management, they say, we have a change that is a normal change, a standard change, and also you have another workflow when you have emergency situation, that probably you will skip 2 or 3 steps because this is an emergency. But this probably is not an emergency because it's a scheduled change, but it's outside of the business hours. All of these things we need to take on considerations in order to define. And also we said other thing, because at the end of this list, return it very quickly, it's because about the command control. Imagine we have a Linux administrator. That's meaning he is the creator of all the structure in Linux. It's the user root, yeah? And the user root can execute any command inside of the operation system. And there is a command to format completely the operation system. That is rm/rf, I don't remember exactly, but that's meaning that is like the critical command at this moment. Me as the CIO, the CISO, or other type of position I have internally with the group, with the cybersecurity officials, say, okay, we will enable a system that helped us to understand if one of our administrators execute the command rm/rf, because we need to know who is trying to do these kind of things. This is the first thing, auditing, we need to know. But going to the second stage, we can block the execution or those particular commands that are not allowed inside of the company. That feature, the name is command control. We are taking care of the control of the commands that executed. But not only in a Linux, I only put it this example. We can do in databases, for example. We can do in network devices. We can do in other operation systems. So repeating again, the base of the cybersecurity are, and also related to the zero trust, is to consider these 5 areas: the security of the user, the security of the network, the security of the device, the security under the applications they are executing or they are using in a day-to-day activities, and finally, the data security. I repeated several times about this because several companies are thinking we need to take care about the user and the data, because data is very important. The previous talk were about that, the data. How many data we are dealing, the famous big data. We are using this, and they mention it. We have regulations, we have compliance, we have also restrictions, who have the access. But there are steps in the middle also we need to take care. As I said, considering the context of the business. If the user is coming from other departments or is coming from public network accesses, for example, and all of this will create a better strategy. Also, there is a very important point in this scenario that companies probably are not providing fully corporate devices. Definitely, there is a trend that I have a new employee in the company, and I will provide, this is the laptop from the corporate, and this is the mobile phone from the corporate. But there are other scenarios when the company is not providing that, and the employees are using personal devices. On that scenario, we need to start to consider the strategy of bringing your own device. Or there is another trend, bring your own internet inside of the company, not only about device. That's meaning the employee is using a public internet or a home internet, and they are connecting directly to the corporate. We need to say, okay, these users are coming for this condition, they will go on this way. If the user is not using a corporate device, it is using a personal, it's impossible for me as the cybersecurity official to say, okay, you need to have the last version of the operation system, and also you need to have this antivirus, because this is the corporate antivirus. So, okay, that rules applies for the corporate devices, not for me. And even if the employee is sharing that device with, for example, family, with kids, and kids are also using, probably that device is more vulnerable. That we need to create a different strategy. That is what he said. The processes needs to be adapted to the real scenarios and how the company is operating. And then we said, after the contextual access, after we identify the paths, we need to evaluate the accessing, and finally, we need to evaluate the risk in order to understand the access. But there is another point that mentioned there. Not everything can be configured. Not everything can be, okay, I have the use case, this is the scenario, I will put the rule. This is allowed, this is disabled. This is allowed, this is disabled. These are more like a white and black rules. Firewalls operate on that way. This is open, this port is open, this port is closed, simple like that. But today is not about that. Today is more about the behavior. And there are a lot of transactions, user accessing to the different systems. It's impossible for one single person to start to create all of the use case. That is what we need to use the artificial intelligence and the machine learning in order to analyze the user and entity behavior analytics. When we can have an admin, all the days are coming to the office, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. is logging, and after he's logging to the operation system, after that he logged in 10 different servers. That is what he is doing in a daily basis, because he's entering, he's configuring something, and the next day returning is the same trend, probably change. Not 9 a.m. was night 5, night 10, maximum 10 in the morning. Okay, that is the trend. But what happened if the same user in the upcoming week is appearing in the company with a log system? Say, okay, login was correct, but it was 3 a.m. and was in a Saturday. And the IP address from where he supposedly logged was from China. But the login was perfect. the system can say nothing happened here, username and password was correct, probably the multi-factor authentication was correct, everything was correct, but the context changed. There are a lot of other factors we need to evaluate, but for a human, it's not possible to evaluate and correlate all of these things. At that moment appears the solutions that are the CM powered by UEVA solutions. And there are another term named PUBA, Privileged User Behavior Analytics. So we are not talking only to the normal user, we are talking about the privilege. The second part, because I have another 5 minutes, is about Zero Trust Secure Access, and then the same. First, we need to verify. Returning to the previous, like the user, the network, the data, the environment, definite things, and also always taking care of the risk and the consequence. And here we have a score risk. You say, okay, this user is doing these activities, normal scoring is probably 0. And then if he's doing something unusual, I will increase the score 5%. And if that activity is repeated in the week 2, week 3, week 4, for example, I will continue increasing. That's meaning I will have better visibility that this user is doing. I said weeks, but probably this happen in days or in hours. But we need to understand has on the risk overpass probably a threshold that I define. If the risk of these activities are happening up to 50%, please notify me because I need to take care of that in a person way. That is what I always say, that artificial intelligence is bringing information to us, but it's not replacing what we are doing. At the end of the day, the humans need to understand the insights that the artificial intelligence are giving to us in order to take some actions. This is just an example how the process are working when we have like a normal process, have a user, have a laptop connected to the network and accessing to the normal data. But when we have the zero trust in place, always we will see what is our posture, where we are. Say, okay, this user is a user that is part of HR, okay, perfect. It's identified, it's in a proper apartment. And after that, the device that is using is corporate, okay, follow in this way. If it's not corporate, follow a different way. After that, we will see if the access is through a firewall, it's through a proxy, and after that, or is inside of the company, and when it's already connected, already accessed to the network, I say, okay, have access to all of the applications? No, only the finance application. He can access only to this particular application. He doesn't need, or he or she doesn't need to access that to another applications. That is when we define a posture in different levels. Not only on the network access, because that is what we are doing today with the firewalls. We need to define posture in different levels. Steps to reinforce, we already mentioned it. Remove the privilege that are not needed, definitely, but also review, implement workflow, implement multi-factor authentications. There are different best practices here, and not this a single product, are different products in different areas. That is a very important. Limited control of the users definitely is more important. I will mention another problem before I finish the time. I think that, yeah, it's close. These questions is what I already did at the beginning. Do you know how many privileged accounts do you have in your company? Do you know how many of them are accessing in a daily basis? You know if that password is already shared with other people. That is when we mention the concept of the PIM and PAM, Privileged Identity Management and Privileged Access Management. We need to take care of the identities, we need to control monitoring and auditing, and also we need to do the control, auditing, and monitoring, what they are doing when they log it. There is an example here that some people say, no, that is not, we are not doing anymore. Because when I said how you are storing your privileged accounts, you are still having an Excel file in your desktop that says like a privileged accounts or don't touch, don't open. And to be more pro, I will put a password protected Excel file, not anymore the notepad TXT. Or there are people that are still using sticky notes on the corner of the screen. Hopefully nobody's using that anymore. But we have the other extreme scenario. Say, okay, I will protect my systems. I will create a biometric access. After that, multi-factor authentication. I will put all of the restrictions. And then I will reach the place when I have the password. But if we are still using password like a password 1, 2, 3, definitely we are not reinforcing nothing. We are only putting one like a additional layer in the middle, but we are still doing like a bad practices on the system. And that is also another example. Hopefully, nobody's using anymore. But for this, definitely, what we need is focus it, as we said, in just-in-time access, implement workflows, implement role-based access, as we said, and also please start to using artificial intelligence inside of your PIM, inside of your PAM, inside of your CM, because that is the only model that will help you to obtain more insights for what is happening in your organization. That is everything that I have for today. Thank you so much.